Hello, BookTube. I've got a little bit of mail for you today on a very humid Saturday. It is hot, yes, but it's very humid. The humidity is like 95%, so it's like walking around in a sauna outside. Impossible to breathe, impossible to get comfortable. The very, very early morning today, 4:30, still very humid. It was cool enough, though, so that it evened out. It didn't matter quite so much, but now, hours later, it's rough because my little dog, my little Frida Bean, likes to cover ground when we're outside. At least one walk of the day. She's perfectly okay with just a routine inspection tour the rest of the time, but she likes one walk to really tire her out. And actually, so do I, and so should you. Really tiring yourself out physically at least once a day is really, really healthy for you. And we can't do it. On days like today, we just can't do it. And it's going to be worse the next 3 days. For the next 3 days, it's going to be 90 degrees Fahrenheit with this same kind of humidity. So, perfect day for staying inside. I've got two weak little AC units, one next to the fainting couch and one in the little book room. They are not powerful units at all, but they are just powerful enough for my needs. I don't have central air here, and I don't need the whole place warm. I don't need cooled. I don't need the whole place cooled at all. It's a perfect day to hunker down on those. But first we'll do a midday walk. It'll be abbreviated, and I'll be the villain. She won't like that at all, but it's got to be done. I don't want her to keel over, and I don't want to keel over myself either. But we've got some mail, including some periodicals. We have this is a double issue of the New Yorker, with this young woman is wearing a pride rainbow and carrying a soft serve ice cream cone. It's kind of stylish. It's certainly eye catching. And you'll notice it's a double issue. This is a fiction issue. There's fiction all over this issue, and it gives everybody at the New Yorker a slack week next week. So it's a square bound double issue here. Lots and lots of fiction in here that I haven't got to, but I will. I will get to it. There was one cartoon. As you know, I love New Yorker cartoons. I think they're fantastic. But there was one New Yorker cartoon that bugged me. I mean, I like it, but it bugged me. Because I believe that it is true. I believe that it's the way people actually look at things, and I don't, and people shouldn't. Where is it here? It's towards the beginning, which is difficult to maneuver. Yeah, there we go. That is the picture. A Greek goddess on a portico with a laptop, and the caption is, "Despite all warnings, Pandora opened the comments section." Now, that is funny. But I don't. Every once in a while, the New Yorker will do a cartoon section, a cartoon like this, saying that the one thing we all agree on is don't read the comments. I guess that it reminds me of a New Yorker cartoon from a few years ago. A couple in a house. They're at the top of a horrible, rickety, goopy, cobwebby stairs leading down to a dark basement, and the caption was, "Don't go down there. It's the comments section." I get that as a kind of popular wisdom, but I guess it's just another way that this little corner booktube is different from the rest of YouTube. Where would we be without comments? Where would we be without the comments section here? But anyway, I got the New Yorker, which is all fiction, so that'll take a while to digest. I also got the Times Literary Supplement, which has lots and lots of reviews in it this time around of books that I read but did not review and did not particularly like. And there's one. Let's see here. J.E. Smythe. Is it Smythe or Smith? Smyth. Reviews two books. One is Matthew Kennedy's On Elizabeth Taylor, but the other is Philip Gefter's book Cocktails with George and Martha, about the movie Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf. I really liked Gefter's book, and I really liked this review, even though I didn't agree with Smythe at all, especially in his estimation of Elizabeth Taylor. There was also in this issue a me wanty. Every once in a while I will open the TLS, I will go through it, and there will be something I see that I want. Whether it's a book under review or, in this case, a book being advertised. This thing. Heather O'Donoghue's study of Beowulf, its critical reception, its place in culture. I don't know that this ever came out in America. I'm not sure that I remember it. but me wanty. So maybe a trip to Blackwell's, see if this is out in paperback in the UK. Maybe I can get Blackwell's to send me a copy. That would be great. And the next thing here is not quite a periodical, but it isn't a book either. This is the latest edition of Smoke Signals of Big Canoe News from Northern Georgia, which is, as you can see, it is a multi-section print newspaper. It comes out once a month in the Big Canoe area of Northern Georgia. So we have not even penetrated into Atlanta. We're just in the Big Canoe area of Northern Georgia. But those of you who are brand new to the channel, you might be wondering why I would even get such a paper, and there's a very good reason. There's a very good reason why I do, and it's this. It is a book section. Big Canoe News has a book section. Not, you'll notice, arts and entertainment. That's elsewhere in the paper. This is just books. It's a big spread of books coverage. In full color and really, really well designed. Look at how well designed this page is. You would not know you were looking at a local newspaper. God knows I have worked for enough local newspapers that didn't look this good. That is well done, even in terms of the little details that your eye will miss, but that your brain will perceive. And I am the editor of that book section. So I am the editor of probably the lowest circulation book section anywhere in the country in a print newspaper. But although it's low circulation, God bless Big Canoe News, but we are low circulation. Although it's low circulation, it is almost, I would argue it is literally unequaled. Because where else will you find a dedicated book section? Where else will you find that? You find that once a week in the Washington Post. You find that once a week in the New York Times. Where else will you find once a week in the Wall Street Journal? But where else will you find anything like this? Maybe once a year. The Philadelphia Inquirer or the Sacramento Bee will do a special book section. But they don't do it every issue. It's amazing that the folks at Big Canoe News decide to give books this much coverage. I love it. So I jumped at the job. When it came my way, I jumped at it. Because as a friend of mine told me, I pointed out when I was lucky enough to get this gig, these kinds of jobs don't fall off trees. To be a book section editor does not fall off trees. I am a print newspaper, ad-supported, paid, commissioning book section editor. I am the least and most contemptible of all my brethren who have, and my sisters who have that title. But I am still in the group, which is amazing. Of all the things that I thought once upon a time I was in the reviewing world and the freelancing world, and I was also an arts and entertainment section editor. And when I left that world for retail bookselling, I assumed that I would never re-enter it again. And then I decided I wanted to try to re-enter it, and re-entered the reviewing world. And I met with success there, but I also re-entered all the rest of it. I can't believe it, but I did. I was briefly a columnist. I was an editor and am still an editor. And also I run a book section for a print newspaper. Of all the things that I thought maybe were possible to come back and do again, print newspapers, local print newspapers, they're all but dead. And for a local print newspaper to have an actual dedicated book section, maybe I could think in my wildest dreams I would have thought, well, maybe, the Paducah Shopper might want an arts editor, and maybe once in a blue moon they'll have the space and the inclination to let you run a book review. But you'll mostly be covering the local jazz competition or the local trombone competition or whatnot, and that'll be it. That's the job. If you'd have told me and said, well, in addition to getting back into reviewing, and in addition to being, a journal editor, I'm one of the editors at Open Letters Review, and was at Open Letters Monthly before that. And in addition to all that, there's also a chance that you could become an actual deadline-conscious, space-conscious print newspaper book section editor. I've said, no way at all. I can do it. You give me a berth like that, I'll give you a good product. I'll give you a product your readers will like, and that will win awards. But they don't exist anymore. Sections like that don't exist anymore. So I'm absolutely overjoyed whenever the book section of Big Canoe News arrives on my door. So I read the whole thing. but it's a special thing to have your own self right there in the mail. It's a good book section too. There are two choices that you can make. We've gone over that on this channel many times before. There are two choices that you can make when you're an editor in a case like this. Sometimes they're not your choice. Sometimes you're told by your editor-in-chief, but Big Canoe has given me a free hand. Bless them. The two choices are that you can either be a local newspaper or you cannot. Once upon a time, for, I don't know, 70 years, the back end of the newspaper, the arts, the entertainment, the book section, whatnot, the opinion section up at the front, the op-ed section, they very much did not want to be just local. They wanted to be able to prove that they could do the news and the commentary the same as anybody. And book section editors especially, because if you think about it, if you're in, a small town in Wisconsin or North Dakota or whatnot, you're not going to be able to cover the shows on Broadway. And you're also not going to be able to cover the new releases in the movie theater. You're not going to get them. Your town's not going to get them. But books you can do. And that's the choice that any book section editor has to face. Are you going to make your section local, so it's only about local authors or people who live in the area, or are you going to make your section not local? Under my assumption that there's no such thing as a local reader. And make your section basically a corresponding thing to the book section of any national newspaper or magazine. And I chose the second way. I have editors. I write for an editor who chooses the first way. Both are fine. But it's a fun thing to do. It's nerve-wracking, but it's a fun thing to do. So it's always nice to get it in the mail. That's wonderful. And of course, you too can get it in the mail. I pitch this always. You could, of course, go to Smoke Signals and subscribe. I think it's $35 a year for 12 issues, for 12 newspapers. I temper my pitch just a little because I'm as aware as anybody that you're going, unless you live in northern Georgia, you're going to get a paper that might not be of all that much interest to you. I mean, it's all professionally done. It's all professionally laid out and done, but it's all the rest of it is almost all the rest of it is local news. It's the book section that isn't, and some of you have done me the kindness of subscribing anyway because we're friends, because you know me, because you watch this channel. I temper my recommendation because I don't want you to just throw away your $35. My book section is great, but it might not be. It's not so great that you want to subscribe to the whole paper all year long just for it. I don't think. But I have a blast doing it. It is amazing to me that this late in life, that this second act in the book chat world, I get to be all the things I was in the previous time. That is just amazing to me. I'm not conveying how amazing that is. It's not just amazing to me. It shouldn't happen. And I'm not conveying how singular that is, I don't think. But that's all right. We'll move on to the mail now. We've got just a couple of packages. No boxes, no cardboard. What is this first one? Oh, right. Okay. I emailed with the publicist about this. This seemed pretty interesting. We'll see if it strikes you the same way. So this is from the University of West Virginia? Yeah, West Virginia University Press in Morgantown. Good Lord. And this is... it's a novel. Help me out here. The date? September. Okay. This is Enclosure Architecture. No? Okay. Let's start from the beginning. This is a novel called Enclosure Architect. Let's hope I read the book better than I read the 2 words in the title. This is by Douglas Milliken. So it's University of West Virginia Press coming out with a novel. I don't remember how this got on my radar. Maybe they got in touch with me. Let's see here. Let's read this. I don't have a sheet for it, but let's read what we're going to see in September. It seems like a sign of liberation, of adulthood's indefinite postponement, when partisans bomb the university and every student's personal records from transcriptions to debts are consumed in erasing fire. If nothing else, it lends Margot the freedom to continue her preferred art form of list-making, unfettered by the authority of academia, until she encounters the breakdowns and disappearances and deaths of the people she admires and cherishes most. A monochromatic painter, a BDSM documentary photographer, a transgendered Aphrodite, a mathematician with an invisible car. Yet as the concrete details of her world dissolve into the abstraction of loss, they also become more rarefied, more essential. Something small enough to be contained, small enough to be protected. set in a semi-fictional post-industrial American war zone. Maybe that's why there's no internet. Bombing the campus wouldn't ruin your records if there's an internet. This novel explores multiple facets related to the recent non-fictional decades of constant civil unrest, with a particular focus on the complicated nature of holding a personal creative life amid a time of constant violence and change. Despite its heavy themes, the narrative is threaded throughout with veins of absurdist humor that invite and welcome us into the familial warmth of the narrator's memories of friendship. Okay. Well, the author has written 2 previous novels, To Sleep as Animals and Our Shadow's Voice, and a collection of short stories called Blue of the World, and lives in Saco, Maine. Enclosure Architect. Very interesting to me. All the moving parts of that seem very interesting to me. But it doesn't come out until September, so I have a long, hot summer to get to before I get to it. And then we'll do this next one here. And then we'll be done. Just a couple of packages this time around. So what is this next one? It was from NYRB. Great. Fantastic. I seem to be getting mail from them. That's wonderful. This is from New York Review of Books. So what is this one? This is October. Okay, so I don't get to this one either. Oh, okay. This is Simon Critchley. This is Mysticism. Look at that cover. Amazing. So this comes out as a trade paperback for $20 in October, right the week before Halloween. The author is one of the most engaging, inventive, and eclectic thinkers of our time. In his new book, he looks for meaning in one of the most extreme of spiritual practices, mysticism. He begins with the famous mystics of yore, finding models for the good life in Julian of Norwich, Marjorie Kemp, Teresa of Avila, and Marie of the Incarnation. Is it possible to recreate their ecstatic experience whether one believes in God or not? Yes, it is. Just hyperventilate. I don't advise it. It's not healthy for you, but you can hyperventilate in 10 minutes. And then you'll experience their incredible, the beginnings anyway, of their incredible experiences if you hyperventilate. If you hyperventilate on top of fasting, so today is Saturday, if you don't eat any solid food until Tuesday, and then on Tuesday you start hyperventilating. So hyperventilate at 10 o'clock in the morning. You'll be recovered. If you're young and healthy, you'll be recovered by noon, then hyperventilate again, and then again at 2, and then again at 4. While in a food deficit, a market food deficit, you'll start to experience their ecstasy. Absolutely you will. Who knows what you'll make of it? It's not healthy to do. The author reintroduces mysticism not as something archaic, unattainable, and holy, but as a practical, achievable way of approaching life today. How fascinating. How fascinating. Although it's not going to be that. It's not going to be a practical, achievable way of approaching life today. It's going to be a way of avoiding life today, of hiding from life today. It always is. The book then moves into art. Oh, so once you're done introducing mysticism, you then move into art. In Annie Dillard's prose and T.S. Eliot's poetry, the author finds the means for us to reconnect with each other. No, sweetheart, if you're reading, you're not reconnecting. Anyway. Mysticism is not only an aspect of faith, he argues, but is part of literature and pop and punk music and everyday dialogue, any moment when the mind surrenders itself to ecstasy. The author describes Eliot's poetry as an act of negation. Well, I can certainly agree with a lot of it there. That's for sure. I don't think we agree, though. That which is not written is still felt. But that's... Okay, all right. Here, let's just press on. Here, poetry is experienced like music. To paraphrase Eliot, quote, "We are the music for as long as the music lasts." Yes, indeed. There is no God, and we are his prophets. Through clear writing and a straightforward structure, the author makes history, theory, and literary criticism remarkably alive, applicable, and accessible. At once memoiristic and biographical, intellectual and approachable, historical and boldly contemporary, this book offers an argument in favor of optimism, a reason to believe that despite everything, the pure rapture of life is still within reach for all of us. What do you think of that? I want to agree with that. I want so bad for that to be true. This book was conceived in the midst of the COVID pandemic. Well, you didn't need to tell me that. And traces a link between mystic asceticism and the isolation of 2020 and 2021. Yet what has come from it in this book is a philosophy of hope, delight, meaning, and unity. How utterly fascinating. Oh my God. Don't you want to read this? Utterly fascinating. I want to dig into it right now. I can't. It's October, so I can't do it. But that sounds fascinating. That just sounds fascinating. Okay, and Simon Critchley's bio note is a page long. He's got credentials as long as your arm. Fantastic. Okay, well, Mysticism. Sounds like one of the strangest and maybe most enlightening COVID-born books. So now you know that it exists. It's going to be out in October, and both of these things are coming out in the autumn. Enclosure Architect and Mysticism. They're both coming out in the autumn. They both sound really interesting. So there you go. And in addition to that, you got a glimpse of the Big Canoe News book section. With this lovely header material and these lovely layouts here. It's just wonderful. Just a source of infinite pride to get it in the mail every day, or every month, rather. So we have a review of James Holland's book on the Burma theater in World War II. We have a review of the natural history of the horse. Wonderful. Just wonderful. All right, well, there you go. That is the mail for today. An extremely hot and humid Saturday that's going to be difficult to navigate with the little one, with the little baby. It's going to be difficult to navigate, but we'll give it a try. So that accounts for the sheen on the forehead. It's unfortunately, my mop of blue-black hair partially hides it. But anyway, I'm going to wrap this up, but I'll be back. Thank you, BookTube.